Thanks, everybody. For those of you that are old like I am, remember this greeting, it's a great day in the neighborhood. If you're young, ask somebody that looks old, they'll tell you what it's. But at any rate, I'm delighted to be here today to welcome you to, I don't know, this is our seventh or eighth, Breakthrough Discuss. At some point, I forget numbers. But the whole purpose of here is, as James said, was to get a chance to interact and meet. We have some really cool talks, but we also have some opportunities to interact, and we have some parties. The nice thing about being privately funded is you can buy booze. So I hope all of you will take advantage of that. Now, one of the things I'd like to really dedicate this year's meeting to is really the guy that is probably more responsible for thinking about life in the universe than anybody else. Dr. Frank Drake, who passed away last year. He was a good friend, and he was one of the key sponsors or key impetuses to do the breakthrough initiatives. So I know a lot of people here knew him, but he's really an inspiration to me, and I hope an inspiration to all of you other folks. But without further ado, I'd also like to introduce our next sponsor. We have a lot of sponsors this year, so this is really good. Lori Kletzer, who's the Provost and Vice Chancellor here at UC Santa Cruz. Now, I said I wasn't going to do it anyhow, but UC Santa Cruz is really cool. To me, as a science fiction fan, this is Ewok Village. So Lori is the Vice Mayor of Ewok Village. Thank you for sponsoring us.
Well, thank you for that, Pete. I agree. So I, too, want to add my good morning and welcome to UC Santa Cruz. To those who were here last year and to those who are new, this really is the place to be to talk about what you all are going to talk about in this neighborhood. And I believe the phrase about a neighborhood, to those of us who've been like around the sun, I get to say that in this a few times, is it's not only great day to be in the neighborhood, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I won't sing that for you. And clearly, I'm a labor economist, so I'm going to spend as much time with all of you as possible. Clearly, I'm going to feel way out of my depth or solar system or whatever ridiculous thing I'm going to say, but what an exciting set of discussions that you're going to have today, and we couldn't be happier to be your host. UC Santa Cruz, we describe ourselves as being at the intersection of many things, the intersection of innovation and social justice, and particularly at the intersection of innovation and research. We are known for breakthrough discoveries in space science, such as explosive phenomena in the cosmos, the origins of gravitational waves, stellar and planetary structure, and the secrets of potentially habitable exoplanets. It's an extraordinary time in astrophysics. For people like me, it's such an amazing opportunity to learn and to soak in what is being learned. I am continually mesmerized by the photographs from the James Webb Space Telescope. And as campus provost at Santa Cruz, like to take ownership for the pieces of that. And it's really, the James Webb Space Telescope is really ushering in a new era of exoplanet exploration and revolutionizing our view of the universe. And the sharing of those photographs is really broadening the set of people and communities who are aware of the really phenomenal deep questions and explorations that all of you are involved in. It's just an incredibly exciting time. And it's also an exciting time for UC Santa Cruz in this area. My cherished colleague, professor of astronomy and astrophysics and astrobiologist, Natalie Batalha, is leading the interdisciplinary consortium funded by the NASA astrobiology program. This is made up, as you know, probably of faculty in astronomy and astrophysics and earth and planetary sciences, is one of 8 research teams across the nation tracing volatile elements that form the atmosphere of planets, establishing a scientific foundation for detecting the signatures of life on other worlds. But scientists are not the only ones involved in this exhilarating work. Research and creative endeavors are happening across diverse fields and disciplines. Our humanities faculty have spearheaded an initiative to study the ethics of space science, and UCSC's many initiatives related to social justice and philosophy make this a fertile ground for dynamic discussions. Today, I understand amongst the questions that you will be discussing is that very big one we all want the answer to, or an answer, or a series of answers to, I suppose I should say. Is there life beyond Earth? Trying to understand the prevalence of life in the universe. I too, before I hand this off to the next sponsor, would like to acknowledge the life work of Frank Drake. Frank was a professor of astronomy and astrophysics here and an eminent radio astronomer. Dr. Drake came to UC Santa Cruz in 1984 as the dean of what we then called the Division of Natural Sciences. He was known then, of course, for his pioneering work in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, conducting the first organized search for radio signals from intelligent extraterrestrial sources, and one of his goals was to answer that question. A very brief anecdote. In 1961, he convened a group of 10 scientists that include Carl Sagan, biochemist Melvin Calvin, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry while they were meeting in 1961, Barney Oliver, research chief at Hewlett-Packard, and the dolphin expert John Lilly. They came together secretly to talk about the search for intelligent life beyond Earth. The reason to share this anecdote is fortunately clearly at the looks of this conference at a place where you can talk about, at 9 a.m., how we might be able to have a drink together, because somewhere, it's 5 o'clock, right? Fortunately, this work no longer has to be done in secret, right? And as one last anecdote, that this work no longer has to be done in secret, I'd like to refer back to my colleague, Natalie Batalha, who in testimony at the U.S. House Science, Space, and Technology Committee, she shared an estimate that 10 billion planets in our galaxy alone are potentially habitable. So I'm optimistic that in this very big question that you all are going to discuss, while it may not happen in my lifetime, but soon or soonish, we are going to have an answer to that question about whether there is habitable life beyond our neighborhood. So with that, I would like to hand the baton of sponsorship off to Steve Kahn, Dean of Mathematical and Physical Sciences at UC Berkeley. Thank you again for joining us here at Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Lori. As she mentioned, I'm from UC Berkeley, the other UC campus in the neighborhood. I'm in a good mood this morning because the drive down was far more relaxing than I expected it to be. Maybe still the aftermath of COVID. In any case, the Berkeley campus is very proud to co-sponsor the event this year. I went to the first Breakthrough Discuss meeting at Stanford, which was my previous institution before moving to Berkeley last year. As I think most of you know, Berkeley has a long and proud tradition in basic astrophysical sciences, but also in SETI, of course, going back many, many years. We're one of the main institutions involved in Breakthrough Listen. We have other interactions with Breakthrough Foundation as well, and very pleasant collaborations there. And you know, this is an extremely exciting time for the campus. We have very active programs in exoplanetary science that has created a new and much more extensive interactions between our traditional astronomy department and our Earth and Planetary Sciences department. So this field is truly interdisciplinary. It brings together people from many different domains, and that's one of the nicest things about it, even if we don't find anything. But it's a very exciting time. I'm very happy to be here, and I wish you all the best for a very, very successful meeting. And with that, let me introduce David Korsmeyer, who's the Deputy Center Director for Research and Technology at NASA Ames.
Thank you, Frank. Greatly appreciate it. The whole real reason I'm here as a sponsor and a helping host to the Breakthrough Discuss is because I get a front row seat. For those of you in the back, wait a couple hours and you'll see why I did this. We truly are pleased to be a supporting organization of this great activity. I've had the pleasure of working with the Breakthrough team for a long time, and it aligns perfectly with NASA Ames interests and alignments. We're also greatly pleased to be working with UC Santa Cruz and UC Berkeley. We're situated right in between them at the base of the San Francisco Bay as one of NASA's oldest research centers. We're 83 years old. NASA is a little bit over 60, so do the math, figure that out. We came first. NASA's focus is very broad in space, aero, science, and technology, but NASA Ames in particular gets to focus on the cutting edge, say the bleeding edge, and maybe a step or two beyond the bleeding edge capabilities. We were the foundational organization that came up with the astrobiology program within NASA. We actually hosted the NASA Astrobiology Institute for well over 20 years. We proved that transit photometry can discover planets around twinkling lights with the Kepler mission. We lead the AI/ML quantum activities at the agency, plus we do a bunch of other great stuff that we'd love to tell you more about at a later date. Again, it's a great opportunity for us to be here and support this wonderful activity. We really encourage everybody to listen and discuss, because there's always new stuff we're learning. With that, I'd like to introduce my follow-on host, Takalani Nemaungani, the Chief Director of Astronomy at the African Astronomical Society. Thanks.
Good morning. It is a great honor and privilege to have been afforded also this opportunity to become one of the hosts of this prestigious event, and here representing African astronomy. So my role as the Chief Director for Astronomy within the Department of Science and Innovation in South Africa is to nurture the development of multi-wavelength astronomy in South Africa, and by default to the rest of Africa, because I mean, if you look at the name of our country, of course it ends with Africa, so we are part of Africa. And we are here because of the partnership that we have with Breakthrough Listen and SETI, because our radio telescope, Meerkat, is one of the telescopes across the world that is being used to search for the aliens. And it's really, a great telescope, which is part of the SKA project, the global SKA project. Astronomy is one of the fastest growing disciplines in South Africa, and also, across Africa. And we trying to do this from a sort of a value chain approach of developing astronomy, all the way from high schools to create more public understanding of science and technology, all the way to building institutional capacities at universities through research chairs and scholarships, and to the development of astronomical sites in South Africa and Africa, and also building telescopes, and also forging international partnerships and all of that. And therefore, that is why we are here, because I think with this kind of partnerships, they will enable us to, us to achieve the vision of positioning Africa as a destination for astronomy sciences and facilities. And therefore, we are really excited to be here. And I just want to end up by saying that we are actually having very good partnerships between South Africa and the US in many fronts. Partnerships with NASA and other universities, both in space science and astronomy. And we want to build on that going into the future. And I would like to also then invite, we have a delegation of 4 people coming from the African Astronomical Society as the executive committee members, but we do have the AfAS president, and he will tell you more about the African Astronomical Society. So may I introduce Professor Thebe Medupe, who is the president of the African Astronomical Society. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. I think the previous speaker has said much about AfAS. I just want to thank everyone who has taken an important role in making it possible for us to be here. And for that, I would like to thank Andrew Simeon and the Breakthrough Listen team for making our visit here possible. Breakthrough Listen has been involved in South Africa for quite a number of years, and we appreciate the investment they have made there, and also for inviting us to be part of the Breakthrough discussed today. By inviting AfAS to be here, Breakthrough Listen is helping us grow, as AfAS is a young organization. Our organization really was relaunched 4 years ago, and we're still trying to build the membership, which consists of professional astronomers as well as astronomy enthusiasts throughout Africa. We do have facilities in Africa, as many of you would know, but the big challenge is how to make sure that those facilities are used as an instrument to grow astronomy community in the African continent to the point where many of us can participate in these very exciting, cutting-edge astronomical projects, such as the ones that will be discussed today and those that were discussed yesterday as well. So we thank you very much. To give you the scale of the challenges we have, the membership of our society is 400. If you compare it to a small, and Africa has a population of 1 billion people. If you compare that to a country like Spain or the UK that has 700 astronomers in total, it gives you an idea of the kind of challenges that we are facing and how much we need to work to make sure that that we grow. But also, I'm saying that with optimism, because Africa is a young continent, and so the future lies with Africa. So we must make sure that we make good use of that and get as many of African young scientists trained and to become part of the international scientific community. So we hope to benefit from more networking that hopefully will take place in these few days that we're here. And we also hope that this marks the beginning of a very strong relationship we'll have with Breakthrough Listen and that it goes much into the future. And with those words, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Rob Fender, who is the head of astrophysics, University of Oxford.
So for those who don't know me, my name is Rob Fender. I'm the head of astrophysics at the University of Oxford, and we are very happy to be associated with Breakthrough Discuss as a host. I'm very sorry not to be there. I see a lot of old and new friends on the program, and Santa Cruz looks lovely. I've never been there, and I hope to visit someday. So people are talking about their host institutions. I think Oxford's main characteristic is the fact that it's very old. The University of Oxford is just under 1,000 years old. This means that approximately 270,000 stars could potentially have life orbiting them, which observe the formation of our university. And that includes 3/4 of all the stars that are visible to the naked eye in the night sky. Now, of course, that's a silly statistic, but it reminds us again of how huge the numbers are, I think, and how likely it seems to all rational people that there must be life out there. And I think this is what makes the work of the Breakthrough Foundation and other similar organizations so important. So Oxford is delighted to already be working with the Breakthrough Foundation on a number of projects. So currently, these are mainly in the area of radio astronomy. We have a past history of engagement with Breakthrough Listen, and we have a number of future and current projects which are rolling forward. But we also hope soon to be expanding into collaborations in areas, in other areas beyond radio astronomy, such as investigations of exoplanets, and in fact, all paths on the search for extraterrestrial life. Particularly exciting recent development is that in collaboration with Breakthrough Listen and the SETI Institute, we've restarted observations, or we've been involved in the restarting of observations of astrophysical exotica with the Allen Telescope Array, which of course was designed and constructed in order to further the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Some of you may have seen there was a very high profile recent result, which we had published in Nature Astronomy as essentially a joint collaboration between Breakthrough Listen, Oxford and the SETI Institute, as well as some other colleagues, using the Allen Telescope Array to follow up a very bright nearby GRB, which has received the name the Boat, the brightest of all time. This really was a set of observations which was really further enhanced by the overlap in time with the Allen Telescope observations and another small radio transient array called Ames Large Array, which we have in the UK. And I think this demonstrates again the power of relatively small, high cadence facilities for doing transients research. And of course, you know, searches for extraterrestrial signals fall very much into the remit of searching for transients. I think this is something that's very important. I don't think single big facilities in the future will do this, but I think innovative and dynamic facilities, smaller facilities in the future, which are able to dedicate a lot of time to these kind of searches, are what's going to give us breakthroughs. This is, as you can tell, this is very close to my heart, and I'm very much looking forward to working further with Breakthrough Listen on similar projects. And I'd note, for those of you who are in the radio astronomy community, that I think very much we need some kind of dedicated radio transients array in the Southern Hemisphere. Okay, that's enough from me. To reiterate, you know, Oxford are very, very happy to be co-hosting this meeting, even though I can't be there in person. I'm sure it's going to be an extremely exciting and stimulating meeting. And I would note that we do actually have 3 real in-person delegates at the meeting, or at least, I mean, I can't see them, but they told me that they'd be there. So hopefully in the audience, there are Joe Bright, Chris Zabadami, and Ian Hayward from Oxford. These are all outstanding radio astronomers with a lot of interest in many of the things that Breakthrough Foundation do. And I hope you have the chance to speak to them. Okay, that's everything from me. Thank you very much for listening. And I will now introduce the next host, Natalie Batalha, who is the UC Presidential Chair, Professor of Astronomy and Astrophysics, and Director of Astrobiology at UC Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics and the Astrobiology program, welcome to UC Santa Cruz. For many of you, welcome back. It's great to see you here again. I'd like to just set the stage with regards to science. Let's remember where we are in terms of science. We arrived here last year, just after the planetary and astrophysics divisions released the decadal surveys. And we went home to the very first images and spectra from the James Webb Space Telescope. Did you know that the word life was mentioned over 200 times in the astrophysics decadal and over 900 times in the planetary decadal? The latter recommended a mission to Uranus, and you might think, what the heck does Uranus have to do with life? Well, it turns out we've learned since that the ice giants in the galaxy may be precursors to some of the most common types of planets in the galaxy, the super-Earths, with, of course, implications for life. The Astrophysics Decadal recommended a flagship space telescope capable of detecting biosignatures on a couple dozen nearby worlds. And later last year, I think it was in November, at that meeting at the House, the testimonies at the House Science and Technology Committee, Mark Clampin designated that flagship the Habitable Worlds Observatory, even though it's going to do a lot of astrophysics. He called it the Habitable Worlds Observatory. And then, of course, in July, we went home and we saw not just beautiful images, but the first planetary spectrum from the James Webb Space Telescope, followed later that year by the first carbon dioxide detection, the first evidence, concrete evidence, direct evidence of photochemistry occurring in a planetary atmosphere, and the first measurements of the TRAPPIST planets. It's been an incredibly exciting year, and all of these efforts dovetail nicely with this year's theme, the solar neighborhood. I am hopeful that life exists right here in our solar neighborhood, and much of our efforts over the next decades are going to be to learn about our nearest neighbors, not just the worlds that they harbor, but even the stars themselves. And of course, it's no coincidence that Breakthrough chose this as this year's theme, because Breakthrough has always kept its eye on the public sector, while at the same time carving out their own unique niche. And time again, they have chosen to focus their efforts on the search for evidence of life beyond Earth, which I find extremely inspiring and encouraging. So we come together today for this common goal. We come together today also by invitation only. We come together today at the invitation of a very generous donor, of course. And this confluence of circumstances doesn't always bring out the best in us humans, I will say. So I would like to end by reminding everybody that, well, to be respectful of the speakers that are up on stage. This is their time to shine and to communicate their messages to us. And really just to remember that we are here for the love of science, for the love of Ewoks. Where's Pete? And of course, for the love of life. So keep that in mind and enjoy all of the discussions, the debates, and the new ideas that you will be exposed to in these 2 days. Welcome. And with that, let's get to it. Let's start our program.